Do not forget, you can support the channel with a like, and you can also subscribe to be aware of the latest published videos. Thank you. We hope that here you can find the latest news, ideas, and discoveries from the scientific world.
For sale, abandoned Scottish village haunted by a seer. The traditional loch-side home of a legendary Scottish prophet is up for sale in Scotland. While you can buy the old village of Laird for around £125,000, you might have to deal with the Lady of Laird restless spirit. The old village of Laird is a scheduled ancient monument on the north shore of Loch Tay in Perthshire, Scotland. The abandoned ancient village has come onto the property market for offers over £100,000 and includes the House of Laird, the Laird's house, in which the famous Lady of Laird lived, who Scottish history cherishes for her prophecies. The quintessential Scottish 3-acre site boasts its own private beach filled with a semi-ancient native woodland and trout fishing rights. Old Laird Church was built in 1669, at which time a mill and a lime kiln serviced the House of Laird, which is said to stand on an older property that was destroyed by the Marquis of Montrose in 1645. According to a report on STV News, prospective buyers will also have to consider that the site is haunted by a 17th-century seer who predicted the invention of trains and steamships. This is not, perhaps, the best marketing tool, because to most people there is little difference between a seer and a witch when it comes to buying abandoned loch-side villages, a rare and idyllic piece of Scotland. In March 1996, Glasgow University Archaeology Department undertook the first season of the Ben Laird survey program on the north shore of Loch Tay, at which time a topographic survey and an archaeological assessment was conducted at this site. According to Canmore, the site is described by archaeologists as a deserted village represented by a series of well-preserved stone buildings of 17th century and later date, and likely to contain buried archaeology dating before 1473. The 1841 UK census lists 17 people living in the old village, and it was entirely abandoned early in the 20th century. John Lambert, a partner at property selling agents Goldcrest Land and Forestry Group, told STV News that not only is the location one of the most beautiful places in the country, but this is an extremely rare opportunity to buy a part of Scotland's heritage. Furthermore, the property salesman told STV News that the new owners of the old village of Laird can launch a boat on the loch and enjoy fishing, picnicking, and camping. It is a very special site. Visions of the future. Perhaps more well known than the village itself is the House of Laird's last occupant, the Lady of Laird, who made several prophecies which are recorded across many historical documents. As is often the case with mediums, some of these prophecies came true, and some folks say others are yet to unfold. This, of course, is another way of saying she got it right some of the time, probably around 50% of the time, or chance, as all studies into such ideas have so far proven. All that said, it would be a pretty dull article if I was to list all the predictions that the famous seer got wrong. On a local level, among the predictions she made about the future that did come to pass was her claim that the ridging stones for the church would never be put in place. Just as she said, these large stones were left on the shore until they washed away. The Lady of Laird also predicted that the local church would fall when an ash tree planted near it reached the height of the spire. According to both folklore and historical texts, when the tree reached the height of the church's spire, it was blasted in a thunderstorm and it was never used again, just as predicted by the Lady of Laird. More than just a chancer. Skeptics would say perhaps the so-called seer heard a gardener telling her father that the roots of the churchyard tree would eventually topple the church, only lightning got there first. However, among the forecaster's grander predictions there are some which still defy explanation. For example, her vision of fire coaches crossing the Drummonster Pass, which is said to have been a prediction on the coming of the railway. Another moment of transportation foresight led to the seer talking of a ship driven by smoke. This, according to believers in the powers of mediums, was an insight into the future invention of the steamship. Lastly, maybe her most famous prediction was her visualization of the Highland clearances, which ultimately brought about the destruction of her own village in the 17th century to make way for sheep.